Hello everyone and welcome to the Engineer Bootcamp for TF Tuesday. As you can see, I'm playing the standard defensive engineer, which means I've got the Rescue Ranger, the Wrangler, and the Southern Hospitality. And I'll be explaining why I use those all in a bit, but first we need to get to the point. So I'm following my edges to try and avoid my exposure to firepower. I'm keeping behind cover as much as I can, and we're going to move up the stairs, use my wrench to get rid of that soldier, because the Southern Hospitality inflicts bleed damage as well, which makes it very good for hunting down spies. So, there was some firepower on this control point. I can tell that by the fact that it was being captured, which makes it a bad thing for a standard defensive engineer to go into, because I don't have much in the way of health or firepower. So I'm just going to do some circles until I think they're reasonably dead, and in with the wrench and they're dead. Fairly straightforward. So, first thing I want to get up if I'm trying to defend a point is a sentry. The sentry provides the bulk of the firepower for the engineer class, so that's going to be what I'm mainly focusing on. So that gets up very quickly, it's my primary focus while it's building, and then we'll see, it's going to save my life in a moment. And there we go, one soldier coming in, and one soldier dissuaded from continuing by my sentry. The Rescue Ranger you saw there can repair buildings at a distance, which is the perfect tool for an engineer, especially when he's under fire and getting busy in his nest. Bright side as well, the Rescue Ranger does not utilize your metal, so you can use it even when you're out of metal and use your metal towards something else, like say upgrading your sentry. So now I've got the metal, I'm putting up my dispenser, and the last thing I'll be setting up is the teleporter. Right now I'm just trying to reinforce this point as much as I can, so we're getting an ammunition and a health depot, which means we don't need a medic over here quite just yet. And then we'll be setting up the teleporter in order to actually get this place running for an actual place for people to spawn from, more or less. We've set up our teleporter as the first thing before we left the base. That's what you should always do. The teleporter entrance is always the first thing you build, unless of course you've got bigger issues like people on your door. Okay, so level 2 sentry is now more or less enough to take down most people who are going to pop in here. It won't take down a heavy or a heavy medic combo, heck forbid, or indeed most people reinforce for medic, but it will be able to take down just your random dude who walks in, such as a spy or a pyro. Now, as you saw before, I did manage to shoot and bump into a spy with my Rescue Ranger, but since there was a pyro on the control point with me, he was less of a concern as I was trying to repair my sentry. Had he actually managed to sap my sentry at that time, I probably would have had quite a bit of a problem. And there's the pyro running around, and now we have 2 pyros on the deck, which is good for me because they will hunt down spies way better than more or less any engineer weapon can. So you really want to be talking to your pyro in the course of gameplay, and you really want to be making sure that your area is as spy-free as you can manage it to be. As I said before, the Southern Hospitality is an excellent choice of wrench in that regard. A lot of people like to use the Jag because it accelerates build times, but I prefer to use the Southern Hospitality because it pretty much nullifies spy bleed, which makes it very easy to tell where they're running around when they're invisible, and also makes it very easy to tell if they've actually died from their dead ringers, because a cloaked shape running around with blood spurting out from occasionally is pretty obvious. So now we've got our level 3 sentry, and we're doing pretty well on our dispenser, so I'm setting up the teleporter. Now remember, the teleporter was set up inside of our base at the start there, and we've got that spy running around. The replay footage doesn't show this, but I can't tell initially whether or not he's a spy. So that's a bit of an issue, but our pyro happily takes him down as was intended. So our teleporter is connected directly to the interior of our spawn area, which means we are now a forward operating base. But let's switch over to the Revengeneer set now with that set up. So we've got the Frontier Justice, the standard pistol, some people like the Wrangler for the pistol, and of course the Gunsling, which makes us our Revengeneer set. So coming out of spawn we have some trouble, so I'm going to fall back to the first safe area I encountered, and I'm going to drop my sentry and get ready to leave. And of course, there's going to be this weirdo here who I'm just going to spy check relentlessly just to make sure, but I think he was either AFK or lagged. So, with that in mind, we're going to follow our lines again, grab whatever metal we can on the way, and we're going to head back up into our nesting location. Now this is a much more aggressive form of engineer because we can deal out a lot more damage very quickly. Our shotgun is more or less the same power, but it's going to be still the sentry first thing we set up, and in counter to our previous defensive engineer, the first one we're setting up now is a teleporter because we are trying to set up a forward base. Setting up a dispenser would allow us some health regen, but our biggest concern right now is getting people over here so we can help capture and move forward. This is a much more aggressive stance. Not to mention that our sentry has much less firepower, even though it is cheap, it fires faster, and if you have the Wrangler it can actually more or less match a level 1 at range, but by all things the Mini Sentry is the weakest of the two, much as people like to rage. Now, of course, when you are setting up any kind of point, remember that you will have at least 100 metal from picking up any enemy or ally weapon. This makes it very useful when you're actually trying to calculate what you should build next. Usually the order is sentry, dispenser, teleporter, but you can switch to the dispenser and teleporter based on your loadout. So my mini sentry isn't doing much except causing severe distraction to whoever comes up, and I'm mostly serving as a support for everyone up here. Remember, the engineer is a support class, which means we don't have much in the way of firepower, and we don't have much ability in our own mana to actually attend to things, but the primary and biggest bonus from the engineer class in general to a team is that of the teleporter for forward operating, and the dispenser for ammo and medic. What's also worth noting is that the engineer should get first priority on any ammo drops, because they will get ammunition and metal from them, which is vital to their operation, whereas the dispenser will hand out ammunition limitlessly, I should say, to anyone that happens to be standing near it. Therefore, it is in the best interests of the team that the engineer be able to get the metal to build a dispenser post-haste. And here, of course, we have a problem with a spy, and I'm saving the things that matter first. I'm getting the teleporter, and later when I get set by a spy again, I'll be saving the teleporter and the dispenser, because the sentry comes up in a couple of seconds, not a problem. Time management is fairly critical when you're in a particularly stressed situation in terms of being an engineer, because the moment any one of your buildings goes down, you're going to start suffering a negative. What's also worth noting is that the longer you are messing around with buildings that are being sapped, the longer that a spy potentially has to run around. In this rear engineer setup, I have to care a lot less about my buildings, purely because if this spy has a dead ringer, I can't tell if he's still around and still alive. Which is to say, whether he could still be behind me. Usually the biggest tip-off of there being a dead ringer is to try and pick up their weapon. When a dead ringer spy dies, it drops a fake weapon which will not give you ammunition or metal when you run over it. But that's it for now, so I hope you've enjoyed this very quick and high-paced boot camp, and I shall catch you all next time.